So the brain has a wonderful way of protecting ourselves. And when we're camping, for instance, and we stumble upon a mountain lion, we've got 4 general responses to that physical threat that we see. We can flee, just run away. We can freeze, deer in headlights. We can look for a stick to fight it, or we can scrounge up all the food we have and say, okay, maybe if we feed it, it'll be satisfied. So those 4 different methods of protecting ourselves, fight, flight, freeze, appease, are things that we've likely heard of before. The way that the brain works is it magnifies the threat and it happens instantaneously. You don't have to think your way into it. If you had to sit there and go, is that really a threat? Well, you're probably gonna get eaten. The challenge that we have is that those physical threats and social threats that we encounter, the brain does the same thing in both situations. So if you've got a boss that walks into your office and closes the door and says, let's have a chat, those same protective measures the brain uses to try to protect ourselves. So what might we do? We might appease, yeah, whatever you say, I'm happy to do it. We can fight and be confrontational, argue. We can flee. I'm just gonna nod my head until we can leave this conversation. Or I can freeze. When I don't actually hear anything that's being said, and 30 minutes later, as my brain thaws, I think of all the wonderful things I could have said back to my boss. The same things are at play though. The threat is typically magnified and the reaction happens in an instant. So in order to recover yourself and be more valuable in the moment, there's several things that we recommend. 1, breathe. Focus on the one thing that you have control over at any moment. In that little bit of space you give yourself, you're able to then focus on, how am I feeling? Do my palms feel sweaty? Do my shoulders feel pinched up? How can you begin to relax them? Then start asking yourself a question that reactive part of your brain can't answer. What's important to me right now that feels at risk? When you begin to evaluate what you're caring for in light of what you're against, you begin to recover yourself and create more of an opportunity for value. You won't always get it right, but if it generally takes you 14 days to realize that you are in a bioreaction, try to make it 13, maybe 12. How can you catch it a little bit sooner and recover yourself a little bit sooner?